Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, the Red Couch Theology podcast. And if that's not the class you signed up for, then you're in the wrong class.
The Red Couch.
Do you ever have professors do that?
You know, most of my
school?
classes were pretty small,
Yeah.
but we also hilariously had, in theory, about 4 times the number signed up on paper, because we had a lot of people coming from different continents. And so we never knew who was going to turn up. It was quite fun, really.
Interesting.
A lot of African pastors would come to my seminary.
Yeah.
Because it had a reputation. The guy had done a lot of stuff in Africa, so they'd come there. But you just never knew who'd get a visa at the end of the day. So they'd be like, we're coming. And then they just wouldn't come.
All right. So I'm going to go fix the camera.
What's wrong with the camera? Do I look more tan than you again?
No, we both look way too white.
That's a problem.
And that's a problem. But before I fix the camera, I would just like to point out, I've done the analytics and I'm right. The video is better.
Huh? How did you do those analytics?
Just how many views we get in one versus the other and listens.
Interesting.
My video peeps out there showing up for me.
Yeah,
and all of the time where Alex is like, no one's seeing this. Why do you care?
That is not what I said. I simply said you only care about the video people.
No,
So if you're out there and listening and not watching, I love you, and Aaron does not.
Well, if you're watching and not just listening, then Alex doesn't love you as much.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying that I love both mediums. But, you're always like, oh, the video people. So if you're there on video, we love you. We love you.
All right.
Right.
So this week on the episode, here's a couple of things we're going to be talking about, at least to start.
Okay.
And no guarantee. Once we get rolling, all bets are off. We have no idea where we're going. But I'm trying this new thing where we start with something.
Yeah.
Rather than find it 30 minutes in.
That's unbelievable.
So.
You're like a man who found a field that was full of a pearl of great price.
Oh, man, we're getting off the rails already. I haven't even said what we're doing. Okay, so there's this weird section in the passage you preached where Jesus finds him in the temple afterwards. Like, the guy doesn't know what in the world happened. Like, the religious leaders say, like, why are you carrying your mat? That's working on the Sabbath.
I think they said it more like, why are you carrying your mat?
I love that voice. I've never heard that from you. That voice needs to come out more often. But anyway, and then later, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, see, you are well again. Stop sinning or something worse may happen.
Sure.
So the question is, what do we do with Jesus warning the man that he should stop sinning or something worse than being disabled, theoretically, might happen to him?
Yeah.
Is Jesus blaming the man for his own disability?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one question we're going to talk about.
Oh, so we want to, okay.
I'm going to give a few previews.
I got it. Yeah.
And then one listener or one person would love to know what damson berries are. We'll talk about that.
Question 2, yeah.
And then how do I reconcile moments when I pray for a miracle but don't see the outcome I hope for?
Great.
So miracles, do they really happen? I prayed really hard. I prayed for a long time. Nothing happened. All that stuff. So that's some of the things that I'm going to ask Alex. I wish there was a way you could vote them up or something so that we could prioritize them. But we're going to talk about all of them. Yeah. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's dive into this. Maybe the more tense one. Text-based one. Yeah. So what do we got on this? Here's the I'm going to fix that. I'm going to put it on the screen in a second. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So one, I would say, to me, this passage also nudges in the direction of healing is not Jesus' great purpose or greatest purpose. Interestingly, we tend to, I think by nature, focus on the healings, But the lame man healed will one day become old enough that his legs no longer function. The blind man one day will no longer be able to see again. Lazarus, raised from the dead, will one day die again.
And you might step into a puddle of mud and your shoes do get dirty.
Yeah! Imagine that. And
if you don't know what I'm talking about, Alex made this hysterical thing where he's like, was this a miracle? And he tells a story and it's like, oh, intriguing. And then there's another one. Was this a miracle? Oh, intriguing. And then the end, he's like, last week I stepped into a puddle of mud with my white new shoes that you can see maybe on camera. And they didn't get dirty. Miracle or not miracle?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Who knows? Anyway.
Sorry.
So eventually all of those miracles will become undone. Even the water turned into wine will be drunk and gone. And so I think there are, like, the miracles point to who Jesus is. They give life back to people who feel like life is, painful and difficult. And so they're beautiful gifts. But as Jesus starts to talk more about where these signs are pointing, he clearly starts to point to the greatest miracle of all, which is resurrection. And that promises a life that doesn't fade. So I think, like, somewhere there's probably some language here that Jesus is pointing at. I think it's a bit like in the synoptics. I'm trying to remember if it's in all of them or just one of them.
What's a synoptic?
Sorry, the three other biographies of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
Yeah.
I think this, I can't remember if it's in all of them. He says things like, what do you gain if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? Yeah. I think this is like kind of language like that. What do you gain if you gain the ability to walk but lose your soul? Again, that's my guess. Other people might point to the fact that sometimes in the stories across Scripture, someone who's had an experience of God is judged more severely for their actions than someone who hasn't. So, there's like, you've been given grace, like, whatever you do, don't go back to old patterns and find that, that something worse comes upon you. So I think it seems to perform a few functions in the text to me. The one is, this miracle isn't the thing above all things.
Okay.
And two, that theoretically the condition you were in is not the worst condition you could be in.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, so I wrote a daily devotional on this line, and that's kind of where I landed, is that, like, the worst thing that could happen to you is not to be lame.
Yeah.
It's to be in sin. Okay. So then why is that? Like, why is sin that bad? Well, it's like, sin is like behaving contrary to design. Yeah. And so it's like a lawnmower, like trying to brush your teeth with a lawnmower. It doesn't function well.
Yeah.
It's behaving contrary to design, and the outcome is not ideal.
Yeah. So absolutely. So if you buy into the Asclepius theory, so if you heard the sermon, there's a whole bunch of writers, commentators that are like, this seems like it's not a Jewish thing at all that he's participating in.
Yeah.
It feels more Greco-Roman. Like, it's hard to find stories like that across the Jewish scriptures where the pool is the thing, as opposed to someone saying, go to this. The stories about healings and rivers and things, like, I think Elisha says to Naaman, go to the pool, go to the Jordan and wash. So there's like miracles connected with a person who uses a thing as a function. Jesus does that a couple of times. He'll do it with the pool of Siloam as well.
And he does it with spit. So,
yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
But there's not, as far as I can remember, places where it mentions like, oh, there's this pool and this is a healing pool. Again, could be wrong.
Yeah. It may just be, we don't know.
So if you buy into that theory, that he's gone to someone who he thinks can help him, then like in some ways, Jesus could be saying, stop going to pagan things, like, or something worse may happen to you. Like, if that's the sin, stop going to someone who isn't God. And of course, now he's shown this sign of like he's back in the temple now. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you read that narrative like that, there's some interesting movements where he's come back from the thing he was at to the thing. And Jesus is like, yeah, don't go anywhere else again.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, so, but either way, whether you read it that way or there's some other sin that he's warning him about, the bottom line is the worst thing that could happen to you is not actually a physical ailment. It's that like, that's how bad sin is. It's just it's so dangerous for your soul. Now, here's the next question is Jesus going to make the bad thing happen?
Well, so
is God going to make the bad thing happen to him?
That's a bit of there's a nuanced answer there, I think. The New Testament as a whole is fairly comfortable with the fact that certain types of sin can result in sickness. In Corinthians, Paul talks to the Corinthians about their kind of lax attitude towards communion. You know, that he talks about them taking it without thought, without contemplation, without real appreciation. And he says, for this reason, some of you are sick and some of you sleep. So he's quite comfortable with the fact that there are ways that you can approach God or ways that you can act towards God that can result in sickness. Now, he doesn't define God did that thing, but he certainly seems to push towards allowed it. And so I mean, I can buy the argument that God doesn't put the sickness on you, but there's certainly plenty of bits of language across the scriptures that it's allowed. I mean, it's, you know, and whether that's the Job language of, you know, the dialogue between God and Satan, which seems like a later amendment to the text in some ways.
Yeah.
But the language of, see my servant Job, there's none like him. And the conversation with Satan or just the accuser is, let me make him sick.
Yeah.
Let me see how he handles that. Like, let me see how he worships you when he's covered in boils. And you do see a tendency for us as followers of Jesus, for some of us in sickness, we distance ourselves from God. And some of us in sickness, we actually grow closer to God.
Yeah. So like, I guess on the theological spectrum, you have more of a Calvinist mindset or a determinist mindset that would make the argument that every single thing is and God is the agent of all actions in the universe. And then the theological justification for like, how is God not the author of evil is that he authors the ends, not the ends justify the means. That he actually is authoring the ends and he uses some evil things to accomplish some stuff. And that's more of on the extreme Calvinist side. And then on the more extreme Arminian side, or like what theologians would call like a libertarian free will, it's God is much less in the weeds of the day in, day out stuff of the like where his hand's actually tipping the scales and various different things. And a ton of God's will is accomplished in how he designed the universe. Showing my cards, I tend to lean a little bit more towards that. I used to be a hardcore Calvinist, but now
it's so hard to picture.
Yeah, you know, I was just, you know, I was a jolly Calvinist.
A jolly?
Yeah. So
I picture you like one of those theology bros that's like super intense and, you know.
No, I just silently judged people.
Yes, brilliant.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so.
But I think we've talked about like my favorite John Piper quote, and I only have one because I really struggle with
9-point
John
Calvinist,
Piper.
by the way.
Probably, yeah. Probably extra and probably growing. You know, 12, 15.
No, just 9.
Yeah, like
just 9.
I never really got over the whole John Piper, Rob Bell thing, the farewell Rob Bell moment. I'm like, we are the only group of people in the world that eat our own. Like in the end, like you step out and you're just like, you know, you're just removed from all conversation, fellowship. There's no like grace a lot of the time, I think, with the evangelical church. We're always looking for those reasons to poke holes in people. But one of the things that he said that I love is someone said to him, like, you know, are you a Calvinist or something like that, some kind of question. And he starts reading these scriptures. And, you know, they're all Calvinist scriptures. And he goes through them and he says, so, no, this is what God says. And he also says, whoever will may come. And he also says this. And he also says this. And he says, if you think my tiny human brain can compute that, this is what God says about himself.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to say yes to those things. I can't figure that out.
Yeah. And in that sense, I loved, I mean, the beauty of like a John Piper is like, if you were to pin him in a corner and say, name all the things, or if you read one of his more theological works, you'd pin him down and more in the Calvinist camp.
Sure.
But because he's a Bible teacher, he doesn't have to play that game. I've heard John Piper sermons where I'm like, this guy's definitely an Arminian.
Yeah.
And I've heard John Piper sermons where I'm like, no, this guy's so hardcore Calvinist. And that's the beauty of being a Bible teacher, is if you just try and teach the text faithfully, you're going to sound like one on one day and like another on another day. Yeah,
it's like when we talked about the Sermon on the Mount, like Jesus is going to say stuff, however you position yourself, that's going to leave you a little bit like, wait, hold on, because he doesn't do camps. He doesn't do like sides. He does the heart of the Father.
Yep.
And so I think that when you live in those spaces, you know, you might find yourself like the most conservative liberal and the most liberal conservative, or something like that. Like I don't even know how to express that fully. Like you're going to reflect the mystery that is God. And so when we talk about these things, we're just trying to peel back the layers on who God is. If our job is to solve God, that's going to be a boring eternity.
Yeah.
Like if you can figure out God here, like, you know, that would be very strange. So I think that's us trying to understand the best we can, that it seems like God might occasionally choose a journey of sickness. It seems that he certainly allows a journey of sickness, and it seems like he definitely at times uses sickness for his good purposes.
So, all right, a slight pivot on this question. I think most followers of Jesus, or people who call themselves Christians, if you were to ask them, can you earn your salvation? I'd say that the bulk of evangelicals would say no. Mm-hmm. Like salvation is by grace through faith. And they may not be able to like quote some theologian in a super elegant way, but they would say that. But then a lot of them, of the same ones, actually feel like, like that's how you get saved. Yeah. But I don't get any extra brownie points with God unless I'm good. And I can't, like, if I'm really good, then good things are going to happen to me. And if I'm really bad, bad things are going to happen to me. And can we blame them for feeling that way with passages like this in the Bible?
No, that's fair. And I think it's pretty widespread. Barna did some research recently. I think it was Barna. 50% of pastors still feel like they earn God's favor. I mean, so 50% of pastors feel that way.
Yep.
Like most of whom are spending more time in scripture than the average person, who are going through these things and navigating them, who theoretically are sharing it more with others.
Like they might make a theological mental assent that it's not always that way.
Yeah.
But they feel like.
Yes, they almost always theologically assent to, no, I don't have to do that. And then at least 50% of the time say, oh, there's definitely times in my life where if I'm honest, that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
So again, that's
I don't know anything about that.
So I think that
I'm surprised it's not 100% of them.
and maybe 50% of them were being honest. 50% of them try to earn God's favor, and 50% of them are liars.
I think there's a latent tendency toward that, even in the most pure Jesus understanding people. But
so you might know a lot of things that say you don't need to do that, but it goes back to the language of like that you hear articulated around Jesus' return. A lot of people might say something like, oh yeah, I'd like Jesus to come back, but like when I've got better at prayer. when I'm like in a place where I'm, reading the scriptures more, I'm serving more, I'm giving more or whatever. Like
I hope he catches me in that window where I'm being good.
Yeah. If he could come back a week, I prayed.
There's about
day.
like 1 week a month that I'm good.
Yeah. So I think now again, as soon as you start saying things like that, you get to say, well, yeah, that's because I actually believe he's more pleased with me when I'm doing well. But even though I think the theology, the language is pretty clear on no need to earn favor, it still speaks with a good deal of caution around just casually living a lifestyle that's not the lifestyle that God shares with us, and on all sorts of levels.
And so here, the reason I'm like drilling in on this question is I think, one, like you and I have talked about this over the years, like maybe the fear that some churches have about talking about sin at all on one side of the spectrum. And then on the other side of the spectrum, everything's a sin and it's also, you should be really ashamed about it. And God probably doesn't like you because you're doing it.
Yes.
And I think the reality is the scriptures teach something a little bit more nuanced that I think a passage like this is actually hammering on. That like sin is like eating too much sugar.
Yeah.
It's bad. Now, but on steroids, like your physiology wasn't designed for sin. Your brain wasn't designed for sin. Your relationships weren't designed for sin. Your communion with the Father wasn't designed for sin. And so when we're in sin, it's like we're no longer breathing oxygen anymore. We're choosing to breathe some sort of chemical that like we're kind of alive, but not really alive. And so when the Bible speaks about sinning, it's warning us against these like this really toxic thing that's in our life that's really damaging the goodness that could be.
Yeah.
That changes the vibe of talking about sin quite a bit.
Does, yeah. And I had a really interesting moment the other day. I was listening, a little clip came up on my one of my feeds, a fairly well-known preacher in Texas. And he was talking about like this shift he had where he said, I was suddenly like no longer afraid to say whatever I thought about something because, like my job is to get people to heaven. Or something like that. And I, for a moment it hit me. I was like, oh man, like the things I don't say, blah, 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 blah. And then after a while I was like, oh, wait, hold on a second. I don't think my job is to get people to heaven.
Huh.
Like that's God's job to do that. Like it's my job to help them live in the way of Jesus. So like part of that is sharing the beautiful gift that Jesus has for them. That ultimately is about his salvation and his works. That is a conversation between them and the Holy Spirit. That is somewhat led by me, but primarily led by him. And I think there is a theory for some people. Oswald Chambers talks about this, actually, the famous devotionalist. He's got these amazing, my utmost for his highest. Is his famous devotion. And he talks about Jesus' comment that he's going to make his disciples fishers of men. And he says, you know what kind of fishing he's talking about? He's talking about dragnet fishing, the most unskilled form of fishing in the world. You throw a net in, you drag it through the waters, and you maybe get lucky.
This is not fly fishing in a river.
No, it's not by any means.
We have to choose the right fly and like, are you going to drop it down to the bottom or sit it on top? No.
This is the opposite of that.
This is just a big old net. Throw it down.
Yeah. Now, there's some skill in going to the right spots, but even then, there's luck and new springs appear, and some of it's just working knowledge of trial and whatever.
Yeah.
And he said that's the kind of thing he's talking about. And when we think of it in those terms, it's mainly about provision in the water, not about the skill of the person doing it. And he says, I've been around the people that think it's all about them and how well they can articulate the story and like their bold confidence in going to people over and over again. And he has this brilliant phrase. He says, those people usually end up smelling like gunpowder. like they've got this vague sense of like, you know, firing shots all the time, and like, you know, they just have a and it's not that they again, I don't know that I'm right on those things. This is just me talking about how I tend to think through my call as a teacher. When I was in Michigan, we hired a director of evangelism. We'd had outreach for ages, and this person was supposed to come in and be more evangelistic. And he would go to our food bank where we'd have people come in and grab a meal while they were waiting for their food to be, you know, collected and stuff like that. And he'd come out and he'd be like, 6 decisions, 7 decisions, like he'd always have a number. And after a while, you'd be like, with a gun or without a gun? Like, it felt like it was a gunpoint at times.
Yeah.
It was like a push, like,
I'll give you this sandwich if you pray the prayer.
Yeah, or dessert. Like, you get dessert if you pray the prayer. But after that, he didn't care about them at all. Like, there was no follow-up. There was no, like, he just wanted a tick, a notch in the gun almost.
Yeah, interesting.
And that's what I think Oswald Chambers is getting at. Mm-hmm. There's like now when you go back to the early 19th, like the 19th century revival movements over here, 17th century, the different times where that happened, they would operate with a fair amount of fear, but there was always discipleship alongside it.
Yeah.
So you'd do things like they'd actually have like special chairs for people that were under conviction. You could come and sit in the chair that acknowledged that you were someone that God was working on.
Yeah.
Like they're called like the earnest seats or something like that.
Fascinating stuff.
And again, they would like, you know, Jonathan Edwards' famous sermon, Sinner in the Hands of an Angry God.
Yeah.
Like he would push those buttons, but there was always discipleship afterwards. It was always contained within a small church.
Yeah, it's actually really unfortunate that Jonathan Edwards, basically his entire brilliance has been wrapped up in this one sermon. If you listen to some of his other sermons or read some of his other sermons, they're just like saturated in grace and mercy, all these things. So anyway, but you're right. Like he felt convicted to preach the sermon, and
he did.
People were like weeping and gnashing of teeth and coming in droves. And he's like, in this, like, read this monotone sermon over them. Yeah. Mind you, if you've ever read it, it is powerful language.
Yeah, very powerful. But again, most of his sermons were about the love of God.
Yep.
So it is interesting how we interpret those things, how we see our call. And I think if you feel,
I want to see Alex preach a sinners in the hands of an angry God
so
sermon.
I think if you feel it's your job to get people to heaven, I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if that's anyone's call.
Yeah. Oh man, we could just like rabbit hole that for a while. What is evangelism? What is evangelicalism?
Yeah.
All of those sorts of things. But I feel like we should do what we promised and get to another question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll circle back around. What on earth are damson berries?
So damsons.
I love that this question came in. After you told a story about your dad almost dying. They're just sitting there like, what's a damsonberry?
What's a damsonberry?
I was laughing.
This is my big conundrum. Didn't hear the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you love the people online.
Oh, yeah. Should I pull it up?
No, I got it. Don't worry.
Well, like, how are you going to show? I will just put it on. There's no way. Really? It's not focused. It's not on autofocus, dude.
Dude, that's not working.
No, like I have all this technology and you want to, all right, a damson berry.
You got it then. It's all on you.
How do you spell that?
Damson.
Okay. All right, here we go. There's a damson berry.
So it's actually more like a small plum than it is like a berry.
Yeah.
And you can eat them fresh, and they are delicious. People make gin with them. And gin. You can make jam out of them. Damson jam is a big deal.
Yeah.
So my
What's it taste like?
like berry fruit. I mean, like, how do you articulate the difference between cherry and raspberry? If I said to you, what's the difference between cherry and raspberry, what would you say?
I don't know. I would have to go to like one of those like taste testing or scent classes.
It's not quite like it's not quite a plum. It's not
it
quite
has
a berry.
Like it's like it's got cherry notes, but it has like a little bit of like, you know, grass or something in it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So anyway, we used to, the house I used to live in used to have this huge damson tree. Unfortunately, it came down when they were redoing some fencing. So it's gone now, but it was at the time this just giant of a thing that get laden with berries in the fall. So very desirable, not tons of them. People really love them or hate them depending on their particular, palate or whatever. But when I had them, there was this guy my wife worked with, and he'd just like happily take bags of them because he would use them for he loved to make gin, loved to make damson gin.
Yeah. So your dad was climbing up scaffolding to pick these things, and that's when he fell off.
This tree was probably about 25 foot high.
Okay.
At the highest point. And so he grabbed this scaffolding that we'd been using to redo some stuff on the house, whipped it up there. And the ground was just too soft. It was fall, and it had been raining, and
it sunk in and tipped or something.
Yeah, and just suddenly it just was watching it topple. And
well, there you go. Y'all been educated.
Yeah,
about the foreign ways.
Damsons don't exist over here. Maybe they're an East Coast thing.
Maybe. But there you go. There's our theology question of the day.
Wouldn't it be amazing if there was like, they were a thing here, but they just
had a different name.
Different.
They're just plums.
Yeah.
They just look like plums to me. All right.
They're a lot smaller than plums. They come in like bunches, more like, so. They're probably like this big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put up a picture of a guy holding some so that you could kind of get the scale. All right, so
yes, damsons are grown in the U.S. and have been for a long time. English settlers introduced them to the American colonies before the Revolution, and they are still cultivated today, both in home gardens and commercially, particularly the blue damson variety. You can also find them growing wild in areas like Idaho.
Next to potatoes.
So there we go. Idaho.
Potatoes and damsonberry.
Potatoes.
Yep.
So there we go.
All right.
Yeah.
There you have it. You came to this theology podcast to get your berry knowledge increased, and now you have.
I'm going to buy a damson tree and plant it on the church property, and then people can gather around it and
make wine out of it or something.
Yeah, there we go.
No, I don't know. All right. So another question. How do I reconcile moments when I pray for a miracle, but don't see the outcome I hoped for, or nothing happens, or it's just silent, or whatever you want to fill in the blank? What's up with that? And what do we do with that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a super tough one based on like partly on the sermon. Like now Paul uses the language of a thorn in the flesh.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of back and forth as to what he means by that. Like some people think he had a problem with his eyes because he asks for someone to scribe one of his letters or something like that. Some people think it's like something physical. Some people think it's a person that keeps bugging him. Like, we have really great elders, but imagine if one of them was really annoying that kept complaining about everything. Like, it could be all sorts of things. Hypothetical for us.
Yeah.
But I think that like the fact that in some people's minds it could be eyes, that it could be a physical thing, suggests there's times where God is specifically using them. Like Paul talks about that to keep him humble, to keep him with a sense of. So I think on one hand,
how about all the other people around this pool that Jesus didn't heal?
Sure, yeah, but I think the focus on Paul for a second helps because Paul actually says, I asked God 3 times to take it away.
Yeah.
And every time he said, my grace is sufficient for you.
Yeah.
So somewhere there's this narrative for Paul of at least praying for something to happen and God saying, no, you're exactly where I want you right now. That's not an easy thing to take. And I'm sure it wasn't for Paul. But he goes away with this sense of God is working some good purpose in it. And so that was partly, for me, like a silent inspiration for the flow of the sermon, which was, this is a beautiful passage about leaping, which leaves a load of blank areas just floating around. Like that, we don't know Jesus didn't clear out the pool.
Yeah.
I mean, like the man goes, he says he didn't know where Jesus was. Jesus could have gone around and healed everyone else. Maybe there was no pool of Bethesda after this because Jesus healed everyone. Bethesda. And maybe he didn't. Maybe there was just this one man that was beautifully healed and then Jesus went on his way.
Or like a couple weeks from now, we're hearing about like the feeding of the 5,000. Like in the John account, it's not 100% clear why there's 5,000 people there. You kind of make some assumptions. They're there to hear him teach and or get healed because we see that. So like, does Jesus actually have the time? Like, what kind of line is that? Like, if you're coming up to get healing, and if you're in the back of the line, like, eventually some sandwich gets passed to you with some fish and bread. And you're like, great, I had lunch. I came here for healing. Yeah. And Jesus then sneaks away to something else. You're like, I stood in line all day. I mean, I'm glad I got lunch. Yeah. But and then there's other scriptures in the synoptics that Matthew, Mark, and Luke that say things like Jesus went to a town and healed all their sick. Yeah. And then we're left with the sense of like, well, does all mean all? Does it mean all that came for healing? Does it mean everyone in the town, regardless of whether they wanted to be healed or not? Like, again, our preacher say once, all means all. The Greek word for all means all. All means all. Yep. Or whatever voice I did before. Yeah. All means all. That sense of like mystery there is really apparent. So Jacob comes out from his encounter with God limping. This man comes out of his encounter with God leaping. And we have to be okay with both stories to a degree. Yeah. And so I think certainly regular prayer for healing is a beautiful gift. And I think there's a few things that go alongside with that. I do think taking the Corinthians passage seriously around, for this reason, some of you are sick and some of you sleep, which is his word for Christian death. I do think taking seriously in sickness, is there anything unrepented from? Is there any lifestyle that's like, I'm living out of line with how God lives is actually a great practice to go through. Yeah. And so like, if I've had times where I've been sick, like actually for me, communion is a big deal. Because I want to approach that believing like, no, there's healing in this thing. This is like a moment. God isn't just, it's not symbol only. It's God is present in particular ways. Like there's this theology that I tend to lean towards of God's real presence and communion. Yeah. That isn't quite the Catholic transubstantiation concept. So let's talk about the three main views. Yeah. So that sense of like the Catholics have that the bread and the wine become the literal body and blood of Jesus. And then all the way down to the super Baptist casual point of view, which is almost like, the bread and the wine become real crackers and grape juice. Like it's almost like a reductionist view of it's like it's just a metaphor. It's just a metaphor, just a visual and a metaphor and a remembrance. Yep. But Paul takes it more seriously than that. So the middle one, the real presence, is that it's not literally turning into the body and blood of Jesus, but he's almost promised a unique manifestation of his presence around the cup. So real presence. And that Paul is very explicit on, when you don't take this seriously, you're opening yourself up to these things. That's his language. Yeah. Again, he's very close to this early beginning of things that says, no, this is how we took it, at least. Yeah. So I think for me, like thinking through, like, is there something in my lifestyle that's like off track?
And if that's not true, like, then yeah, sickness is part of this life. And we pray for healing. I have never had a theology that I can understand for who is healed and who is not. I mean, growing up in that culture, and especially then overseas, of seeing people healed.
Yeah.
I had never been able to understand the difference between the person that was prayed for and healed and the person that we gave a few $100s to have a serious operation in a foreign country where they didn't have access to that. Like, I'm just, I couldn't tell you a difference between the two. So that's a beautiful mystery that I get to ask one day in eternity. But right now I don't have a theology for.
So your big idea, and I think I might even be able to state it somewhat.
Yeah.
With not perfectly, but it's whether you're leaping with God or limping with God, the with God is the important part.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
It's with God that matters.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, look at you.
Hey, I remembered a thing.
You remembered a thing.
Yeah. As a preacher, that's
gold. Yeah.
That's gold. You're like, wow, something's
like,
stuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think it frees you up to say, God, this isn't you rejecting me.
Okay.
This isn't you mad at me. Something here is designed to pull me towards you. Or might be symbolic of my walk with you, or all sorts of things that enable you to say, this isn't me being broken.
So, all right. Maybe one final question. Like, we had a couple other direction we could have taken, but just by way of conclusion, what if that doesn't feel like enough? So, okay, cool. Yeah, all right. God is with me. So, like this hypothetical, nebulous, amorphous oblong.
Yeah.
Was it you that I was talking about?
Yeah. Most people, when they picture the Holy Spirit, for some reason, picture a gray oblong.
Yeah. So anyway, this very confusing, nebulous, distant God. Yeah, he's with me.
Yeah.
Like, but when I became a Christian, I thought I was like, yes, I had a conviction about my sin and I didn't want to go to hell. And yeah, okay. So, but now that I'm a Christian, I thought that there was going to be a little bit more like, isn't there a benefits package to this whole deal? And to know that the CEO's in the building, is that enough of a benefits package to justify all of this effort? I
think all of these things to me are like, well, I think we sit in the space of personal experience of sickness, which is I've seen that in my grandmother, in my mother, in my dad. Like, I've been in those spots with them. And experienced myself to a degree when my gallbladder went out and I was in just this intense pain for like in intervals for a few years. Like, it would come and it would go, but there'd be nights where I'd just be up all night, just like so much agony.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, like I feel that I empathize with that a lot. At the same time, regularly we don't play those things out to the like nth degree. Okay, so does that mean that like becoming a follower of Jesus means everyone's guaranteed just drifting off into sleep at a specific year mark with no sickness whatsoever? Is that what we expect it to look like? Like, it's 95 on the dot, and then you just slowly, just peacefully fall asleep.
Die in your sleep.
Or is it like the Lord of the Rings, where the Númenórean kings are able to go at the time of their choosing, and so they live 200 and something years, and then are just like, okay, this is my time, and they lie down and they just drift off.
You just got nerd real fast.
Oh yeah, I can get nerd real fast.
Yeah.
It's not even getting that, I just am a nerd.
Yeah. So it's just like, look out, your nerd is showing.
Yeah. So like, because that would be the extreme of that viewpoint. If everyone who follows Jesus can access that kind of experience or beauty, like that, we would see that all the time. But it seems like in this world, like how you eat, how you live your life.
Do you exercise?
Do you exercise? Does stress hit you heavy? What do your genetics look like? all still matter. And God doesn't give just an easy get out of those things. So like when Jesus says that there's healing, sure, there is. We see it. But when he also says, in this world, you will have trouble, like he means that too. So I think this is the hard part for me of like, I am always willing to continue to pray for healing for anyone to whom God hasn't gently said, this is your time to go.
Yeah. And there's like, to your point, there doesn't seem to be a formula of like, in this scenario, like if the person's really, really good and they seem to be really effective in some sort of ministry capacity, they're going to get healed because they're like effective.
Sure, yeah.
But if the person's, you know, kind of like a second grade Christian, you know, they come to church sometimes, but those people, they're not really moving the ball down the field, so they don't get healing. That's just not how it works.
The church I was at in Michigan, the founding pastor, Bill Moore, incredible guy, super godly man, loved by everybody that encountered him, lit up every room he walked into. Decided it was time to step back and travel and enjoy some of his life and, you know, get to know his kids better after working so many years. Moved to an associate pastor role in the same church, got sick, died within a year. The church prayed for him like crazy. I mean, this man founded the church and grew it up to 1,200 people, was beloved by all. And in the midst of that, people were also putting him on their private jets and flying him out to hospitals and stuff. Yeah. And he still went to be with Jesus. So like there's no theology for that for me. Yeah. That gives me this easy answer.
Okay, so then so the presence of God is what is promised. Yeah. In either situation. Sure. And so one of the interesting things to me is when you're outside of experiencing really, really firsthand suffering, the presence of God doesn't feel like is enough. Mm-hmm. But for many who are actually faithful followers of Jesus, the presence of God in the midst of suffering, generally it's those folks who are faithful saints who love Jesus and they go into a season of suffering and like, oh, I would take the presence of God. Sure. Every time. Yeah. They care about that presence more than ever.
Yeah. And that's why there's like those that hit the more mystic side of things would say that there's two ways to experience God closely, and that's suffering or contemplation. Yeah. And one is like almost, I'm going to use the term cheat code, but I don't want that to convey easy. But it's like almost an access that's quicker in the midst of very deep suffering. And that's why you hear these people who's something happens to one of their children, maybe, and they're able to say things like, oh no, I forgive the person. Yeah. Because God is just surprisingly with them in those spaces. And then the other way is actually to commit your life to slowing and looking and listening, to make that your great passion in life. Yeah. And those people seem to come away with a different sense of, this is what I've seen and it's beautiful. Yeah. And all of our work actually can be nothing more than just work for the gospel. If we're not listening for that direction and seeing God get the glory, can actually end up as a straw. I think it was it St. Augustine? I can't remember. One of the church fathers or someone in those eras reportedly they thought he'd passed away, and he opened his eyes and looked at everyone clearly, and he said, "I've seen the Lord. Everything I wrote is but straw." Like he just suddenly had this moment where he saw God, and he was like, "Yeah, no, didn't matter. I didn't get anything. I didn't earn anything from it." Like just so I think that's always painted as the picture of the great longing that we should have: God's presence, and nothing more. Yeah. Well, man, feeling good feels great. Yeah. Like when you're well, that's a beautiful. Certainly wanted that in that season when I just I couldn't couldn't understand why my body was just going crazy at times, where I'd have these nights with just this intense abdominal pain where I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Like nights where I'd be trying to throw up to clear something from my body where I couldn't.
Yeah.
And it was miserable.
Yeah.
And so when you're in those spaces, and I would have described that pain as 9 because I didn't want to be insulting and say 10. But it was
like the old Brian Regan bit. I feel like breaking your femur while 9 months pregnant. That's what 10 is reserved for them, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, on that note, is there? It sounds kind of like there's a vacuum cleaner sucking up the back of our building right now.
It does,
I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
I feel like this wall might come suddenly caving in, and Mel comes like riding in.
Yeah, like there's someone's got like a tractor behind this, and this wall is about to just explode.
Yeah. Well, you see
a wrecking
diving
ball
off to the side.
A wrecking ball is just going to come through this wall. You guys probably can't hear that, but on that note, I think we're going to wrap up the episode. Is there any other final words?
I think I would go back to the centerpiece of the sermon, which was designed to be, you are given the beautiful gift of life with God. And that's our call to embrace. The healing is a beautiful gift when it comes. But the beautiful gift of a follower of Jesus is you're with God. And that's true all the time. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, on that note, I will look for the stop button, and because I don't remember how to run a podcast. It's been a while.
It's the tractor. You're living in fear.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.